One of the biggest misconceptions in the firearms community is pistol suppressors. Yes, they're super cool. They're not Hollywood quiet like some of you all may think, but there's a lot going on with pistol suppressors that we need to talk about. Reliability, function, usability, and for this April Fool's, we are giving you guys a way to carry one on body. If you have a Sidecar holster using the spine system that we have, you can purchase this suppressor carrier for large width suppressors, such as this Omega 9K I just put on, and smaller suppressors as well. And you're just gonna take this bad boy, throw it into the spine system, and then you have a way of carrying your favorite pistol suppressor. But like I said, there's a lot more we need to discuss about pistol suppressors than just how to carry one inside of a holster. So starting off, pistol cans are not something that I recommend that people buy as their first suppressor. I think a rifle suppressor is much more useful of a product. You're going to use it much more often, and it also just has much more practicality than a pistol can. I see a pistol can as being something that later on, if you want to add some capability or you just want to have some fun, then you consider adding a pistol can to your arsenal or to your capability, and you go and purchase one. There are a lot of people who get a pistol can initially, and generally speaking, those people, as time goes on, they get rifle cans, they get more experience, they go, wow, that was a stupid purchase. I should have just focused on getting a rifle can first. But we're gonna talk about pistol cans because that's why you guys are here. So first off, threaded barrels. You're going to need a pistol with a threaded barrel to be able to attach the suppressor. There are some suppressors out there that attach to the actual rail of the handgun, such as the one that's in Europe, although it's not available here in the States quite yet. So you're going to be attaching your suppressors, all traditional-like, to your threaded barrel. Now, threaded barrels come in a few different formats. You have right-hand twist, so that is the direction of the threads, and then you have left-hand twist. Now, here's something that I wish I had known starting out, so maybe it'll save you guys some trouble. Most threaded barrels on the market come in a 1/2x28 right-hand format. So that means to put it on the pistol, you're going to be turning it clockwise and then counterclockwise to take it off. That makes sense, right? Well, the problem with that is most handgun barrels are a right-hand twist for the rifling. So as the bullet is coming out of the barrel, spinning clockwise, it can actually loosen the suppressor on your threaded barrel. And I've had this happen on a lot of different handguns. When your pistol can starts to come loose, it wobbles, your point of impact shift is insane. Like you'll aim A zone, you'll hit a D zone. And eventually, if the can starts to really come off, you're going to eventually get a baffle strike, an in-cap strike, and potentially ruin your suppressor. The cool thing that I learned later on is if you get a left-hand twist threaded barrel, the barrel is still, right-hand twist, like a normal barrel, but it has a left-hand thread pitch pattern on the outside. What happens is as the round is actually flying out of the barrel, it's actually keeping the suppressor tight to the gun. So what I do on my Glocks is I go and I get my left-hand twist OEM Glock barrels or aftermarkets, and then that's how I'm shooting suppressed, and the cans stay on super tight. So that is my first recommendation, is get a left-hand twist pistol barrel, and then you're going to be twisting the cans on the wrong way, but that's great because it's actually the right way when it comes to keeping the cans to the handgun. Now, if you have a 1/2x28, what a lot of companies do is they add a little rubber washer, well, not a rubber washer, but a little O-ring thing. And this is meant to allow you to tighten, like really screw the suppressor onto the barrel really tightly. I have tried that. Typically, it does not work that well. If you try to really tighten down extremely tight, it ends up popping the little rubber ring up onto the lip of the actual barrel, and so then it's not doing anything. It's just not super useful. What it is useful for is if you're using a thread protector, you can kind of thread the thread protector nice and tight to the little O-ring, and then that keeps it tight, but it doesn't really work for suppressors. And I do recommend, if you have a threaded barrel and you're not running suppressor all the time, use the thread protector, throw that on there just to protect your threads, protect your investment. Although I will say threads on threaded barrels are super tough. I've run around shooting them like this, and usually it's not a problem. But if you have a thread protector, use it anyway. I will say a lot of European handguns out there, just so you're aware, like this P30L, have left-hand twist threaded barrels already. It's more of an American thing to do the 1/28 right hand. So if you get a European handgun like this, you should already be good to go if you're interested in having a left-hand twist barrel. With all that said, there are some other systems on the market, quick attach systems, because that's something that I've always seen people ask is, well, you know, why do you have to thread the can on when you have rifle cans that can quick attach? Why can't we, you know, have something similar for handguns? And a few years ago, a few companies started to come out with things, with the main one being Griffin. Christian here, who's on our media team, likes to shoot suppressed quite a bit. He's gone down that rabbit hole. I've probably shot more rounds, but he's probably done a lot more research, and he's had a lot of experience with the Griffin setup. So Christian, why don't you explain the cam lock, easy lock system to folks?
Yeah, so a few years ago, Griffin came out with a system called the cam lock. While it's a cool system, in my experience, it didn't really work super well. So just to show for example, it kind of has these 3 lugs that are threaded, and you have a piece that goes in your suppressor, and you can put it on there, you can kind of turn it, and then it's on there. It's not coming off. You don't have to worry about the suppressor backing off like Lucas was talking about. The problem with this is it's kind of finicky. If you put the suppressor all the way back on the muzzle device, you actually can't really turn it unless you really force it. And then you end up actually stripping out the lugs, which happened to me on my first cam lock system. Griffin since then has come out with a system called the Easy Lock. And what that is, it's very similar. You have a muzzle device just like the cam lock. You have a receiver piece just like the cam lock. And it just kind of threads on here, just like so. But it's a very short throw. You're not having to sit there and thread it for, you know, miles. And kind of the same thing. You don't have to worry about the suppressor backing off. Once it's on there, it's pretty tight. Once you actually rack the slide quite a few times, it actually becomes kind of hard to take off. So this is my preferred setup for attaching a pistol can to my gun. So the other cool thing about this product is if I buy multiple muzzle devices, multiple Easy Lock muzzle devices to go on the barrel, I can put that on different guns. So I have a Glock 42 here, it's 380. It's a very small setup, and this guy threads right on. I can shoot this gun suppressed. It's 380, so it's always subsonic, which is super cool. And then I have a Glock 43X. This is my wife's gun. Same thing, can put the can on here and run this gun suppressed, which is also a pretty cool setup. So in my experience with pistol cans, specifically the Omega 9K, which is my favorite 9mm can, this system has worked out very well for me. Yes, you can get a 1/28 threaded barrel, then you run into the issue of the can wanting to back off. That is a factual thing that does happen. Or you can run a left-hand threaded barrel, kind of like what Lucas was talking about. That does eliminate the can backing off. But this is a nice system because it kind of works like a rifle. It's kind of the same idea. You have a muzzle device, and then you have a receiving point on your suppressor. So this has been an awesome system, and it's worked well for me. So.
Now I know we're kind of jumping around. You've probably seen that there's long suppressors and there's short ones. So when it comes to shootability, and to some extent even reliability, we've had much better success shooting K cans, short pistol cans like this Omega 9K, like this little Huxworks guy. Most pistol cans on the market now have the option of being run in a long configuration, such as the Surefire Rider. This is my bedside table house gun that I carry around on walks because it's convenient. I can remove this end if I want to, remove a few baffles. I think it's like 2. Move this end cap, move it to the front, and then have a K-size suppressor. What it means is the gun's going to be louder because I have less baffles, but it's also going to be much easier and faster to shoot. There's less weight. I can transition a little bit easier, so it's just much more convenient. And if you want to carry a suppressor for some specific reason, you're going to have a much easier time with a K-size can. It's like the size of a pistol magazine than something that's much larger. This rugged right here, same thing. You can remove the end, add the end cap back on, and have a little K-size suppressor. Now obviously it's not going to be super quiet, but that's not always the goal of a suppressor. Sometimes you just want to minimize a little bit of signature and you're not looking for maximum quietness. I will say though, in my experience shooting all these different cans, the Surefire is at home with me. It's a nice suppressor. The Omega 9K is definitely my favorite. I believe it is the most versatile as far as size and still some noise reduction. I run these on MP5s, I've run them on other subguns, I've run them on handguns, and it runs very reliably on Glocks. And it's something that we'll probably get into a little bit later is buying a pistol can, throwing it on a gun is not always that simple. You run into all sorts of issues with reliability, with the kind of ammunition you choose, the action spring in your handgun, is it too stiff, is it too heavy, the lockup of the suppressor to the muzzle device. There's just a lot of things. Like I hit my head against a wall when I got my first suppressor early on. I just could not get it to run properly. For a few shots for fun, yeah, it worked fine, but then it would come loose and then my hits would be off. And then I couldn't get it to cycle because it was a full length suppressor and I was putting it on Glocks, which are not an easy gun to suppress. There's other guns on the market that are made for suppressed use, that are much more optimal for suppressed use, like the 226, like the M9, like a few others out there. Glocks are actually not the best handgun to suppress as far as reliability goes. But I have found that shooting K-size cans does make them more reliable, and so that's something that's super important. There are some new cans on the market that are the flow-through sort of style, where they have a bunch of junk spitting out the front, like this Huxworks. That is cool, although in our minimal testing out here at the range, they are, to the shooter ear at least, quite a bit louder. But they shot really nice. They didn't have a lot of change in performance when it actually came to running the gun, which I really liked. But you've got some stuff happening here in the front, and it is a little bit louder because of that. So there are some flow-through cans. I think there's some other ones as well, which is pretty cool. So with all that said, there's lots more to talk about with pistol suppressors, and determining the best host gun is going to be done in another video, because I think that is something to explore. It's not a Glock, it's something else. We have a 226 here, we have a P30, we might shoot those a little bit, but we're gonna be running our Glocks for the most part, because that's how we have our holsters set up. So now we're gonna get to blasting, do some little tests, and we'll talk about host guns in another video. Bye. For you, Charlie. 604. One shot. So ammunition plays a big role in running a suppressed handgun. Now 9mm is not actually the best round to be suppressing. There's other smaller rounds and other larger rounds as well that can be better. But if you're shooting traditional 115 ammo, we'll start with this. This is Winchester 115. This is just our training stuff. It's going to be quite loud, and I highly recommend wearing hearing protection, especially if you're running something like this K-size suppressor. Another thing to note, kind of grimacing there, depending on how dirty the ammo shoots and depending on how dirty your suppressor is and how much carbon is inside, and I can hear a little bit of it just like wiggling around in there, you are going to get some of that stuff blasting into your face. Handgun dependent, but with a Glock with all these nice little holes back here, I'm literally getting carbon shooting into my face every time I'm shooting this 115 ammo from Winchester. Now, if we shoot this PMC 115, I only got one little speck that hit me, so it was not as bad as the Winchester. But you'll also tell that that's still pretty loud. This is 147 Winchester hollow point defense ammo. The cool thing with 147 grain ammo is it kind of teeters the line of being subsonic and still supersonic. It does usually shoot a little bit softer than the 115s through a suppressed pistol, so you might tell a difference in this. It's actually quite a bit of a difference. So that's the 147s from Winchester. And then this, there are some specialized loads. Supervel has a bunch. This is actually Fiocchi 158 grain subsonic ammunition. So they make this specifically for shooting suppressed handguns. You can't go quieter than purchasing ammunition like this for dedicated suppressed use. So let's see what that sounds like and feels like. So this is one of the downsides to shooting a suppressed Glock. Christian, can you get me my silicone glove over there in the box? So like I've said, suppressing a Glock is not always the most reliable situation. Oh, Christian, it's right here. Brandon, right at your feet. Sorry. There's a glove in there.
There's a glove in your back pocket.
So I'm a retard. Yeah, that's fine. We'll have those colored bars. We're gonna leave this in the video. So as you all just saw, this gun is not cycling the special subsonic 158 grain ammo. No idea why. My recoil spring, my action spring is probably too stiff for this ammo, and I probably need to highly lube this pistol. So I'm going to shoot a different handgun that we are quite certain will work. Very similar to the one that I was just shooting. This is Christian's loadout. So this is still the Fiocchi 158 grain ammo. And that is nice and quiet. But like you all just saw, just because you have a handgun with a threaded barrel and you go get some subsonic ammo and you have a nice suppressor, in this case he has the exact same can that I have, it doesn't mean it's going to work. You're gonna have to troubleshoot and play around. So now I have to go figure out with this gun why that's the case, or just continue shooting my hotter 147 grain ammo from Winchester. That cycled just fine.
So kind of piggybacking off of what Lucas was talking about, 9mm sometimes isn't the best caliber to roll with if you're going to suppress a pistol. 22 cans with 22 hosts tend to be super, super quiet. They're not super reliable, but they tend to be super quiet. Another option is 380, which a lot of people don't think about. 380 is actually a great host to run suppressed. And fun fact, 380 is basically the same caliber as 9mm, so you can run it through a 9mm suppressor. So this is my 380 setup. It is a Glock 42. It only holds like 6 rounds or so. But this is a really cool setup because it is always subsonic no matter what 380 ammo you choose to go with. So, and it is very quiet. Now it's hot. So with smaller guns becoming more and more popular for everyday carry and having better mag capacity, I figured it'd be really cool to suppress this Glock 43X. This is actually my wife's gun. It's got an RMR-CC on it, a TLR7 sub, Shield 15 round mags, as well as the Griffin Easy Lock attachment system. And the nice thing about this is when I thread on the can, the gun stays relatively small and lightweight still, versus like a Glock 17 or a Glock 34. And it is still pretty quiet. This is that Fiocchi 158 grain stuff.
That was awesome, actually.
So if you buy a pistol can and you throw it on your gun, you may notice there is a point of impact shift. A lot of people don't know this, but you can actually fix some of that point of impact shift. The can can actually rotate, and it has lugs on the inside, 12 lugs specifically. And with each rotation, it's going to change the impact of the round. It may be very minimal, it may be pretty dramatic. So it just depends on the gun, depends on the barrel, depends on the suppressor. So the way I'm gonna demonstrate this is I'm going to put 3 rounds with the gun benched on paper and show you guys where the impact is, and I will rotate the can and show you how it shifts. So my point of aim was on the A, and as you can see, my rounds were quite high. I'm gonna go ahead and mark these off, rotate the suppressor, and show you guys where it shifts from there. Now, unfortunately, the only way to actually walk your suppressor into 0 is from trial and error. So I'm gonna go ahead and rotate the can. I'm just gonna go 2 lugs and see what happens. So as you can see, my group is trending to the left. The group opened up, that was probably me, but it's trending to the left now. I'm gonna go and rotate it once more and see where it puts me. All right, I'm gonna rotate it one more time. Again, this is kind of just done via trial and error, and we'll see where it puts me. So it looks like my rounds kind of centered up a little bit. They still didn't come as far down as I'd like them. I could keep rotating the can and keep shooting more rounds to get it closer and closer to the A. But for demonstrational purposes, I'm not going to do that right now. It would just be a lot of ammo. But you can get it pretty close. It may not be perfect though. You may have to keep going and it may be off by a few inches and you may just have to accept that. Now the other thing you could do, you can get it close via walking the can and then you can zero your optic to it. I don't do that just because I carry my gun every day without a suppressor. And I don't want it to be falsely zeroed for a suppressor when I may not use it suppressed, if that makes sense. So you could keep walking it, you can get it closer, but it may not be perfect unless you actually zero your optic to the suppressor.
So as you all saw, we still had a number of issues at the range doing various drills with different suppressed setups because suppressing handguns is not super straightforward and it's kind of difficult. It's something you have to test as you transition through different ammunition, as the spring on your pistol wears out, your action spring, and as you just play around with the handgun. Now the question is, why on earth would somebody want to conceal carry a pistol suppressor? Well, there's a lot of reasons out there. Maybe you just want something that's fun. I will say it was very convenient walking around on the range while as we were shooting this video, just being able to put my pistol away and put my suppressor away and walk around and do things. And then when I want to shoot suppressed, it's as easy as pulling it out, throwing the can on, and I'm done. Now you can do that just taking your suppressor and throwing it in your pocket. I've done that as well. But we thought, hey, for a fun little April Fool's thing, let's go ahead and make an attachment that attaches to our Sidecar spine system so people can actually carry their suppressor and their handgun in one complete package like this. It's not for everyone, but it's definitely a unique use case. Now, as far as purchasing a pistol suppressor, when or why should you purchase a pistol suppressor? Well, the main reason a lot of people out there, myself included and a few other guys, Christian and Brandon as well, the reason that we ended up buying pistol suppressors originally was because we owned submachine gun type weapons, PCC subguns chambered in 9mm, and suppressing these guns is very advantageous. So we go out and we get a suppressor for it, something like the Omega 9K, like this guy right here. And after making that investment and after spending money on the tax stamp and waiting all the time, it just makes sense to go out and buy a pistol with a threaded barrel or buy a threaded barrel so I can move that piece of equipment around on a handgun and also around on my subgun. For example, this is one of my pistols at home. I have a Surefire Rider on here, which I have abused quite a lot. And this used to be shot on a Zenith MP5, not this one, but a different one, quite a lot. Now it stays on my handgun because it's much more convenient to shoot critters around my house who are bothering the dogs. And I sometimes just go on walks carrying this right here because this is much easier and more convenient to carry around than a full 300 Blackout Rattler or even a full MP5. So very convenient. It's still louder than shooting a subgun, louder than shooting my 300 Blackout suppressed, but it's still quiet enough I can shoot it without bothering the neighbors and without blowing my hearing out. So that's the main reason I have a pistol can. Obviously, there's other, more, let's say, practical applications of having a setup like this, but most people have them because it's cool, it's fun, it's interesting, or they possess a small PCC weapon of some sort and they want to be able to suppress it. So with all that said, there's a lot more information surrounding suppressed handguns that we'd like to get into in the future. But like I said earlier in the video, it's kind of a lower priority piece of equipment you should be looking at acquiring. If you haven't acquired a rifle suppressor or a DMR, I recommend going down that road first. A pistol suppressor or even a little subgun like this usually should come further down the line, but it's your money. Spend it how you like. And you should be possessing suppressors. Everyone should be possessing suppressors. We should not have to pay tax stamps on them. It's extremely unconstitutional that I can't protect my hearing and protect the hearing of other people, and by not being able to own a suppressor without asking for permission, by paying a fee, which is horribly unconstitutional, but sadly that is the way things are right now, but we should be fighting against that. Hope you guys learned something from this video. Those of you that are interested in looking into our sidecar attachment, we have two variants right now. There is the large variant, which is designed for the Omega 9K specifically, but you can fit other large fat suppressors. And then we have the smaller attachment that will fit all of your, or most of your traditional skinny size suppressors. And you will have to adjust the retention with the rubber washers to get them to fit. And if you have a really skinny suppressor, you might even have to pad out the inside, but you guys can DIY it all you want. Catch you guys later. Hope you learned something from this video.
There he goes.
I love how doing practical effects for us is easier than CGI.
Oh gosh. Oh.
A little further.
Are you serious? You stuck that in his can?
Yeah. Get it. Get it. Just do a couple takes.
Okay. Okay, Brandon, stop.
Angry face, dude. Angry face.
Dog.
Dog, come on.
Cannot.
Come on, dude. I need one more shot.